Welcome, everyone, to the June 23rd Eugene City Council meeting. Welcome to everyone here and at home. The first item we have on our agenda is ceremonial matters. And this evening, I'm very pleased to recognize excellence in local television programming. The City of Eugene and its partner Metro TV have won an International Telly Award for a working city segment on the city's Smart Trips program. Telly's honor outstanding local, regional, and cable TV commercials and programs. Eugene earned this award through a team effort that truly makes this a win-win-win occasion. This recognition reaffirms the strength and value of the government TV channel offered by Comcast. The government channel is one of 4 community TV channels provided through an agreement between Comcast and the city's telecommunications program. The award also affirms the value of Working City, which Metro TV has produced for the city for more than 10 years. This series brings to life the programs and services the city provides to residents, and it highlights the city staff who are dedicated to making this community a wonderful place to live. And finally, this Telly Award recognizes the innovative and effective Smart Trips Incentive Program. In the award-winning 4-minute segment, Transportation Options Program Coordinator Lindsay Seltzer explains that even small amounts of information and resources can convince people to walk, ride bikes, or take the bus. This in turn allows them to rediscover their neighborhoods, save money, and improve their health. It is my honor tonight to present this award
All right.
to Lindsay Seltzer and the team who made this award possible. I'm going to bring it down and everybody can give a big hand.
My hand's not that big. Well, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Holy cow.
It's heavy. You did some serious damage to that thing.
More than that horse.
Yeah.
All right.
It's heavy. Did you on purpose and you got something worthwhile? That is true. They actually do that. Or they make them out of different materials.
So I'll end that up by encouraging everybody to watch our stars on this video and other Working City episodes. Just click on the videos tab on the city's homepage. One more time. Thanks very much. Next up is the community public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. First up is Dean Hale, followed by Ken Newbeck. Dean.
That's all right.
Good evening. Glorious weather today. I am Dean Hale of Tandy Turn, Ward 4. I have lived in and conversant with the West University neighborhood, Westside Jefferson neighborhood, Churchill neighborhoods for 39 years. 14 years ago, I purchased my present home in the Harlow neighborhood. My property is nearly an acre on a flag lot adjacent to Ascot Park. I come to you as a homeowner who wants to keep the current option to build a mother-in-law secondary house on my flag lot. Last week, I testified before the City Council on my concerns and the effects of a revision to a proposed ordinance on R1 zoning that would have eliminated this option. In effect, it could be viewed as taking. To summarize, the staff proposal for R1 revision continues to allow a secondary dwelling unit to be built on a flag lot over 13,500 square feet. Due to some grossly inappropriate development in university areas, some neighborhoods proposed alternatives to the staff proposal ordinance, which banned SDUs on any size flag lot citywide. As I testified, while the revisions may relieve university neighbors, they would adversely affect people in other parts of the city. I am a resident, not a developer. My neighborhood has spacious lots, and a second unit on my property would hardly be noticed. My hope is for one of my children to occupy my present home when I downsize to a more appropriate secondary home on my property. The proposed alternatives would have prohibited this option citywide. I also noted due process. City staff told me that the notice of the affected property owners was mandated by State Measure 56. It requires notice to be sent to affected property owners. The notice, however, was undated, and it was received short of the mandatory 30-day notice time. That said, this week has been busy. We have had extensive conversation on ways to preserve the university neighborhoods without totally eliminating options for some flag lot owners in other parts of the city. The outcome is a document called Concepts and Proposed Standards for Flag Lot that would allow SDUs. In my view, this reflects healthy conversation. I voice my support in this be included in Council's approval of part of a package of R1 code revisions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ken Newbeck is next, followed by Cheryl Reinhardt.
Thank you, City Council, Mayor, and City Manager. I'm Ken Newbeck at 2020 Monroe Street in George Brown's ward. We just moved, so hi, George. Summer weather is bringing more people downtown, but I think we need to ask the question, who is not coming at all? And who is coming out for a meal or perhaps for a film, but not staying to linger downtown? And the answer is people who need to be able to visit public restrooms and need places where they can sit and enjoy watching the city go by. Eugene has sought to make downtown uncomfortable for the few who pose a nuisance. In doing so, I fear that it's made downtown less welcoming, less pleasurable, and less accessible to many Eugenians. These include our elders, a growing segment of the Eugene population. Most men over 55, and I'm not looking at anyone here, most men over 55 experience an enlarged prostate or a benign prostatic hyperplasia, one symptom of which is the need for frequent urination. Women of all ages, but particularly older women, can experience urinary incontinence. As people age, many experience a variety of chronic illnesses or suffer injuries that make it difficult to walk distances or to stay on their feet for extended periods. Where do they go to relieve themselves? Where do they go to sit in the absence of public benches and seats along the streets or in places like Kesey Square? Others affected, who I think are less likely to visit or linger downtown, include families with small children, with toddlers and infants. People with disabilities of all ages, including veterans suffering war injuries. Visitors and tourists who no doubt find downtown less inviting and pleasurable than they have been led to expect. The focus of discussion about restrooms has primarily been on people who are homeless and for obvious reasons. They're being cited and fined for performing necessary human functions such as relieving themselves in public space. They're being moved along from resting and sitting despite having no legal and safe place to do these things. Their needs are the most urgent and require immediate remedy, not criminalization and punishment. But the issue of downtown becoming less welcoming, pleasurable, and accessible is affecting all of us, not only people who are unhoused. Do we close down Kesey Square? Does that mean I only have 3 seconds left?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Reinhardt is next, followed by Aaron Taylor.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Reinhardt, and I live in Betty Taylor's ward. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the paid sick leave ordinance for Eugene. My sister Catherine and I are the owners of Sweet Life Patisserie. We've been in business for 21 years here in Eugene. We've provided paid time off to our full-time employees for many years, and in January 2013 we expanded this benefit to all 45 of our employees, including part-time workers. Our benefit enables employees to take time off for any reason, including sickness. In order to establish this benefit, we spent several hours setting up spreadsheets, writing our policy, and notifying employees of the new benefit and how they could use it. Enacting this policy was not difficult or overly time-consuming. We understand that a mandated paid sick leave ordinance would cause us to adjust our paid time off benefit a bit. It will also most likely add to the cost of our existing policy. We do not expect it to be problematic, burdensome, or too expensive for us to make these changes. The policy we now have does not take too much bookkeeping time. On the contrary, it takes us less than 1 hour of additional bookkeeping time for each pay period. The reality is that this policy allows our employees, some of whom need every day of work to pay their bills, to take time off when they are ill and not lose any wages. We have not had any issues of people abusing this policy. We trust our employees to use their best judgment, and this trust has a positive effect on our workplace and our business. Regarding the Oregon state law that prevents food service employees from coming to work when they have certain types of illnesses, our paid time off benefit enables employees to comply with state law and our illness policy by not coming to work when they are sick. To address the concern that employees might abuse this benefit, I would state strongly that we should all be more concerned about the type of abuse that happens when people come to work sick in violation of state law because they can't afford to forego a single day of work. Some companies may be concerned about being able to afford providing sick time. The reality for all business owners, including myself, is that costs of all types are always increasing. As a business owner, it is my job to adjust to these increasing costs, whether by raising prices a little or cutting costs in other ways. This is not a hardship, but merely the reality of owning a business. The minimum wage in Oregon increases every year. Does this put anyone out of business? No, of course not. We plan and adapt. The cost increase of this ordinance would be comparable to many other increasing costs that business owners deal with routinely, whether those costs are gas, ingredients, insurance, or labor costs. Business owners expect cost increases as a matter of fact. In my opinion, beyond a minimum wage, paid sick time is the very least employers should provide their employees. It is a basic need and should be considered a cost of doing business. Unfortunately, it is clear that many companies would not offer it if they were not compelled to. My sister and I are unreservedly in favor of council setting a minimum standard for all businesses to provide paid sick time for the good of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Taylor is next, followed by David Strahan.
I'm here addressing the issue of fireworks, and
Will you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Aaron Taylor, and I am a pastor here in town. We have a youth camp and 2 churches, one in Springfield and one in Eugene, and for 25 years I've been here and have done a lot of different things to help people over the years, and honestly that's been my passion. It's been the passion of our whole group and our whole church. It's really not that difficult to have a church service, but it is difficult to reach out to people and genuinely feed them and help them and clothe them and let kids go to camp, not for $500, but $5. That takes money. And you guys know that. If you implemented this tonight, you'd destroy our ministry. One, I don't believe you legally can. And I've already addressed those issues. But if you implemented that and it happened today, we've already ordered for this year. It's already on the tables. And the sales this morning at our last year largest location was $25. In Springfield, at our smallest location, over $1,000. Because people are afraid they're not sure if they're going to light them off. They're not sure what you're going to do. And I mean, our tent was full of people, news crews and people going, what are they doing? What are you know? Sad thing is they're not here. You got a handful of people complaining. I got 22,000 people who show that just in our tents alone, they enjoy spending time with their families on something that we make inexpensive and then take that and use it for good. We say we can't enforce legal fireworks. That's ridiculous. In Portland, they're running PSAs. They are enforcing legal fireworks. And what they're doing is they're going out and they're prosecuting and they're doing PSAs and educating people about modifying, which is already illegal, about noise ordinances, which are already set, and they're also going out and talking about these illegal fireworks, which take money out of our community. It takes money away from our nonprofits. It takes money away from our economy, and they're the reason for all but one fatality or major damage due to fireworks. And that one has some extenuating circumstances that I know about that you probably don't. Truth is, legal fireworks happen right in front of you. They're legal. They're not bothering your neighbor 10 houses down or even probably 2 houses down. What's illegal is what's bothering everyone, and we're going to make more laws. If I was disciplining a child, what do? Consistency. You make your rules clear, and you're consistent. When you make everything wrong and the child can't do anything right and they have no freedom, they rebel. I believe what you're doing is you're going to turn our community into people who want to enjoy some things with their kids, and they feel like they have to almost go out and do dishonest things.
Thank you.
And I don't think that's right.
David Strahan is next, followed by Michelle Billington.
Councilors. My name is David Strahan. I live just outside the city limits, and I'm here today to talk about Luz and the ongoing persecution of our unhoused. This recent attention to Kesey Square brings to light a few glaring problems with the downtown area that's the anchor of Eugene and a destination for thousands of visitors, shoppers, and business people. To promote this downtown area, why aren't we providing basic sanitation such as hand washing and bathrooms? Last week I toured the downtown area. I saw many senseless installations directly designed to make sitting or resting impossible. I saw bike racks mounted up against planter boxes that make the bike racks unusable except for one bike. You'd have to turn the bike sideways to use it. These bike racks themselves were unusable because they're way too close to the planter. So not only do you have a bike rack that's not effective, you have a planter that you can't sit on. Look down in front of the Thunderbird, the restaurant, the store, you'll see one there. For the elderly who shop and eat downtown, there's no place for these people to stop and rest. For the children with parents, imagine a parent's nightmare when the child speaks up, "Mommy, I gotta go number 2," in the middle of a downtown shopping effort. How are you going to find that? There's no maps guiding us there. There's no trails. There's no blue arrows on the ground saying sanitation here. If we are encouraging the sidewalk-style bistro dining, which is a certain part of downtown, shouldn't we receive some compensation for those restaurants that are utilizing that public space? That compensation could easily pay for some of the sanitation needs of the downtown area. And why wouldn't some of the cafes and food carts cover some of the cost of sanitation, including trash cans? They are part of the generation of trash down there. When I went to the Kesey Square, the food carts had tables packed so tightly around the Kesey statue that I couldn't even sit on the bench, let alone get a decent picture of it. Why have the hot dog stands and the other carts been allowed to commandeer that public space around that piece of art, around that bench, that resting stop? When I asked the owners of one of the stands why the tables were blocking the statue, he got belligerent and told me, "My lease lets me do that. I've got a lease right here," and he waved it in my face. Wouldn't let me look at it, but waved it in my face. How did the food carts become the elite privilege downtown? Who receives the compensation for their utilization of this public space? Is that going towards the improvement of downtown? Shouldn't the food carts be located in that square to take responsibility for some of the trash and the sanitation issues there? It'd be interesting to see the price breakdown of what it's costing the public to enforce some of the nuisance laws downtown versus what it would cost to spend that money on prevention and true revitalization. I understand that every time an officer shows up to court to testify, the city pays 6 hours of overtime because the court appearances are usually scheduled on their day off. It's not wise use of our money. Why enforce or create more nuisance laws instead of spending that money on prevention? I'm running out of time, but I've got about 12 recommendations here. Quickly, let's open up some resting benches. Let's add a highly visible loo or trash cans at Kesey Square in the park blocks. Add free Wi-Fi to Kesey Square
Thank you.
park blocks to entice people to come down.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Michelle Billington is next, followed by Jonathan Farger. Somebody move the chair. Thank you.
I'm here to talk about my civil rights and the rights of other peoples. I've seen them stomping on my civil rights the last 20 years. I've been I wasn't really a mental health patient. I was really a transplant patient from OHSU because I'm a senator for the Oregon government. I have been ever since I've been 7 years old. My dad and my grandpa Billington, who's related to Morris R. Billington, the banker from Oklahoma, he's the one that helped put me in as a senator. It is special government work. I do all kinds of different work for the government, not just the Oregon government, the American government. I have met many presidents back since the Kennedys. I've known some of the Kennedys and all of them. They have been stomping on my rights. They have abused me by sexually hurting me and physically hurting a bunch of us at different places, including Haxley Housing, Emerald, and several other places. That's why people don't want to stay in those places anymore. I've been hurt many times. When I try to speak out about what I wanted in my life, which is to be with my ex-husband and see my children, which is Mariah, Miranda, Melina, and Jeffrey, Jeffrey Windsor. I have been abused. I've been sexually abused too. I've been hurt many times now. I want some help to figure out why the Billingtons are getting kicked in the teeth and hurt when they've been standing up for everybody all the time. My dad was a builder. Jack Billington was the builder of the whole Eugene. The whole Eugene would not be here if the Billingtons were not taking their own money and putting it out there. Furthermore, I, with my own money from the government, took and put it on a house, or I buy a house once in a while. Well, I get drugged by Sacred Heart and mental health, and I would be told that, oh, the house isn't there anymore. There isn't any house. You're crazy. Well, I am not crazy. I bought several different places and houses. I want some help. That's what I want. I want some help. And I have two brothers who are practically homeless. They've been homeless for 2 years now because my sister or somebody pushed them out of the Billington house at 975 West 10th. And I've been trying myself, ever since my sister supposedly had lookalikes. I've been treated like crap by the whole family, Boston's, the Goldsmiths, and the Reichards. And I didn't do anything in it. I've been by myself helping my brothers. One is 52 years old, and he'll be 53. I'll be 51. Anthony Patrick's 47. They have disabilities. They have back problems. They can't walk.
Thank you.
I want some help.
Thank you. Next up is
Prior to being a mental health patient.
Jonathan Farger is next, followed by Michael Adams.
Good evening, Mayor and the members of the council. My name is Jonathan Farger. I've been a resident of Eugene area for almost 30 years now, and I'm here to talk to you about the fireworks, ORS 480.160, governing local legislation, regulation, and effects. If you look at that number and you look at Section 4A, it says the regulation must be by ordinance adopted by the governing body of the district after public notice and hearing no later than January 1st of any calendar year in which regulation is to be operative. So if you read through that, you could, I hope you do, if I interpret that correctly, then the effect of what you may vote on tonight or pass tonight wouldn't be able to take an effect legally until the January 1st of next year. I could be totally wrong about that. I would encourage you to read through that. But I also would like to state a concern that I have, and I noticed this, and I'm sure many of us have noticed it before, that we have a tendency to pass law or ordinance, and we, at that, tend to ignore the real issue. And I think the real issue governing fireworks is really the illegal fireworks and our inability to enforce the current laws that we have governing those illegal fireworks. And so we pass laws or ordinances in an attempt, but really ignoring the real issue. And so I would urge you that if you vote, don't vote because of personal reasons. Vote based on an overall vision of the real issue, and I believe the real issue is our inability to enforce that law, enforce the use of illegals by making a law to govern the use of legal fireworks, safe and sane fireworks. We are basically empowering the criminals and criminalizing those who do fireworks in a safe manner every year. Thank you.
you. Michael Adams is next, followed by Sue Saralupe.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Adams. I'm in Councilor Zelenko's ward. So a big issue right now that is coming back to the surface is bathrooms, or rather a lack thereof. Bathrooms in parks are being closed when there are solutions to keep them open. I now work 2 jobs. I just got the 2nd job this Sunday. Yet I'm unable to use a bathroom in different locations because I do not have the money to buy something every time I gotta go to the bathroom. You never know when that's gonna happen. Or most likely the bathroom's not available because it wasn't even built in there. Do you realize that a business with a sign, restrooms for customers only, is and are deterring future visits? Much the same response is solicited by closed bathrooms. People, for a lack of better words, they have to go. They will do what they can to avoid an accident, going to such lengths as finding a place out of sight. I would assume that the city is strongly against this, as is the citizens. Therefore, I would propose that the city cut tax breaks for developers, impose stiffer penalties for tax break recipients who do not adhere to the agreement both parties sign, and a couple more things. Please find a way to put some more benches downtown. Do not turn Kesey Square into a park with a curfew, as that will deter business, in my opinion. Move the food carts out of Kesey Square, or limit the number of food carts that can be there at one time. Put it on a rotating basis, maybe. That creates some competition. The reason I would like you to move them out of Kesey Square or reduce their number is because they block the Ken Kesey bench statue. I'm not sure exactly how to refer to it. It's one of the really big sites that a lot of people want to get a picture of. I can't tell you how many people I see, college students in particular, that go down there, oh, hey, that statue. Oh, well, what's that about? And they just want to go look over there. Because they're college students, they're allowed. The tables don't allow them. So it's a blockage to have so many tables down there. That square doesn't belong to the food carts. It belongs to the city. The city decided to make a dedication reflecting our history. Let's open it back up to the public. This is a human rights city. That's what we all claim, right? So where are all the rights? The answer that I can see is that they're being taken away by laws and guidelines, etc., such as the example with all the food cart vendors. Those are permits. That's a law. That's a guideline. It's one that we all set in place. Whether we like it or not, we're all responsible for it. So what I would close with is bring back the rights, back the funds, and help us reclaim it.
Thank you. Sue Saralupe, followed by Art Bowman.
My name is Sue Saralupe. I have been a resident of George Brown's ward for over 20 years. My husband and I own a home near the fairgrounds. When we first moved here, we rarely set foot downtown. Then when my children were born, the journey to the library became a weekly part of our schedule. We loaded our toddlers into the wagon, checked out books, used the bathrooms, and walked back. Small children presumably have bladders that are operated similar to kitchen timers. Not having access to public bathrooms back then was pesky. Now it is jarring. Occupy Medical has, by your gracious donation, access to a portable bathroom and a hand-washing station. There is a line to use it every Sunday. We serve between 40 to 50 patients, and, since the advent of the ACA, they're housed family members who come as supporters. We also have, if you include the Pioneer Pacific University nursing students that we train, about 35 volunteers. You can see why this restroom is so popular. Capstone has introduced a cast of thousands to the downtown area. After the bars close at night, the students roam the streets with recently filled bladders. No wonder business owners complain about public urination. The reality that you, as city councilors, have inherited is no longer pesky. It is a serious health risk. You have the money set aside for public park improvement. I beg you, as a citizen, to be careful with our budget, invest it wisely in a future that includes increased downtown residents and downtown shoppers. Please invest in public bathrooms in all our existing parks.
Next up is Art Bowman, followed by Bradley Cook.
There you go. Parks SDCs. Once we make
Yes. Last Monday, June 16th, was Bloomsday. That's a day throughout the world where people gather in public spaces to recite the novel Ulysses by James Joyce. It happens in Dublin. It happens in places in the United States. And the Occupy Eugene Library Committee, of which I am a member, decided to try to do it here in Eugene. Now, we delayed it to June 17th because we wanted to make room for a special guest, even though he didn't show. And we were trying to find a place to get it, and we decided what better place than, say, a public space named after Eugene's greatest novelist, Ken Kesey. But the oddest thing happened when we did that. We started at about 10:30 reading Ulysses aloud, set up a table. There were 7 or 8 people, and a red cap came and told us we had to leave, and we thanked him for the suggestion, but declined. Then a police officer came and told us that we were trespassing on Kesey Square, which was a public property. We asked him what law we were breaking, and he said he didn't have to tell us. Then a sergeant and a lieutenant came. The sergeant explained that the food carts had somehow leased the entire square, and he kept threatening to cite us for trespassing continually. I wasn't sure it was legal, so I asked him, so I kept waiting for him to trespass me, to write the citation, but he never did. He was like, leave until I write the citation. And I was like, okay, write the citation. He's like, this is your last chance. Leave or I'm going to cite you. Okay, write the citation. It kind of seemed like a Monty Python sketch or something. And then finally a lieutenant came, and I asked him if he wanted to give us a citation, and he said he wasn't sure he had the grounds to do it. In the meantime, a food cart owner was getting very angry and yelling that he wanted to sign a trespass order himself. The officers went. They went to Saturday Market, which I guess administers the lease, and to City Hall, then came back and told us that we in fact were breaking no law, which is something I could have told them as well. But apparently they told this to many people. Now, I've heard both Councilor Surratt and Mayor Piercy tell me that that Kesey is a public space, in fact, downtown's last one. But the police, the food cart vendors, and the Red Caps have been treating it like it's a completely privatized space. I don't know how long this is going on. I've heard secondhand that Books for the People, which is a van that gives away free books, attempted to set up there once and was told that they could not set up there. So basically, when you're talking about making Kesey into a public park, you're talking about simultaneously completely privatizing a park, at least in effect, and making it into a public park. You can't do both at once. I really want to know how long this is going on, why the police were under this impression, and basically why the food cart owners were under the impression that they somehow had jurisdiction under the entire square. I'd like some answers on this, please.
Bradley Cook is next, followed by Steve Hyatt.
I'm Bradley Cook, owner of Huckleberry Fence and Deck, 2188 Jefferson Acres Road. And I'm probably going to have the shortest speech here tonight. I'm asking the council if they adopt the recommendations from the city planners tonight and vote in favor of allowing 8-foot-tall see-through fences, that could the council also grandfather in all existing 8-foot-tall see-through fences that are in this town that fall under the guidelines of what's being asked.
Thank you. Steve Hyatt is next, followed by Kimberly Gladen.
I'm Steve Hyatt from the River Road area. This will probably take longer than 3 minutes, so I'll post the entire text on the internet at morningredrainbow.wordpress.com. There's a place for comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts, so please feel free to leave comments on it. That's morningredrainbow, all one word, no blanks, .wordpress.com. Last time I spoke here, I was reprimanded for not showing proper respect for the council. As a practicing non-believer, I have to have the utmost respect for the truth. Showing respect to people who I don't think are respectable would be false action. It would not express my true feelings. Fortunately for you, there's an easy way for you to earn my respect. Stop punishing innocent people. In other words, stop punishing people for non-criminal behavior. Easy. Here I want to note the distinction between criminal behavior and unlawful behavior. I think that criminality defines behavior that does harm. A crime has a victim. Fortunately, most crimes are also unlawful, which means that a government entity has passed a law forbidding them. Unfortunately, there are some crimes that have not been forbidden. Most of these are white-collar crimes, and making those actions unlawful would reduce the income of some rich guys somewhere. I think of these as legal crimes. These include polluting the environment, releasing genetically modified pollen into the ecosystem, amassing fortunes while paying starvation wages to your workers, lying to the public, and giving money to politicians. Punishing innocent people is also a legal crime. It is a crime because it has victims. These victims are the people whose lives are ruined by being caught with an unauthorized substance. And there's also the homeless people whose misery is increased with each police action. On the other side of the coin, we have unlawful actions that are not crimes. I'll refer to these, we have unlawful actions that are not crimes. They're against the law, but they're not crimes. I'll refer to these as non-criminal laws. These are keeping the prison industry humming. The industry would take a big hit if they could imprison only criminals and not people who have broken non-criminal laws. This divide between legal crimes and non-criminal laws goes to the very heart of the social contract between the government and the people. When a government outlaws non-criminal behavior, it crosses...
Thank you. Kimberly Gladen is next, followed by Wendy Lang, or Lang.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Gladen. I live downtown in George Brown's ward. I thought tonight I'd talk about the view from the bottom rung of the social economic ladder. I've been told before I even knew that existed, because for most of my life I never even considered that there was this ladder. And I got told, gee, you're at the bottom of it and nobody's going to really listen to you because you're at the bottom of it. And that's when I started seeing all the feet above me and so many other people. I started noticing all the things they had, the cars, the cell phones, the computers, the fancy vacations, the trips to the coast, to the mountains, to Mount Pisgah, all of that. I never even noticed how much all of you had and did until someone mentioned, you're at the bottom of the ladder. And I looked up. Wow. Until that point, I thought you were all equal with me. And over the last 3-4 years now, the siege on the downtown has gone on, the chalking, the angry words, the sexual harassing phrases on the downtown. That was last year. All the swear words and the angry need a bench stuff and that. You know, it's really felt like we've been under siege, and it's made a lot difficult for those of us at the bottom rung here to make a living and to get by. It's put us in deeper and deeper poverty, which kind of makes things worse. And at that point, I started noticing how much money the activist above me had. It dawned on me, there's all these organizations that have been trying to help the homeless and do things all these years, St. Vincent de Paul, Shelter Care. Why don't you just open your wallets? Why don't you just give up your money? You want benches downtown? You want bathrooms downtown? You know, merchants put them in. They have benches, bathrooms. all that costs money. And that's why they ask that you just buy something, so they can keep people employed with jobs and keep the economy going. But if you want them just for free down here, let's tax the rest of the town. Let's put a bathroom and bench tax on the town and get the revenue going for the benches. I'm sure every person here who spoke out asking for benches and bathrooms would be willing to pay for them. I'm sure they would. And I'm sure if everyone really thought about it, just start giving up your money to the organizations that are helping the homeless will solve these problems. That's all you have to do is just give up your money. And we can make this work. And it always wonders on me why people, I make less than $15,000 a year. And when I made that money back in the day before Occupy, when I was actually rich, that's how I saw myself, that I was living like a queen at that. Now I make a whole lot less, and I still get by, and I still make it work, but I have less money to give those charities that I used to. And that's what's really sad. That's what all this controversy in the downtown and the anger changed.
Thank you. Wendy Lang is next, followed by Ruben Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Wendy Lang, and I live in Fall Creek, but I work in the Bethel School District in Eugene and have for many years. And I'm here to testify in support of paid sick days. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I work at the Bethel Health Clinic. And we serve children, all children in need of medical care for whatever reason, if they have difficulty accessing it, so we're a safety net clinic. And we also take care of the district staff for the Bethel School District. As you may know, the Bethel area has a high percentage of families who struggle to make ends meet. Our clinic is located in the campus of Cascade Middle School, where over 80% of the students qualify for free or reduced meals. I'm very pleased that Eugene is considering a solution for the parents who don't have the time they need to take care of their children's health because they can't afford to take off a day of work for either fear of losing their wage or fear of some retaliation or possible job loss. The sick children are often brought to school where they spread the illnesses to other sick children, or they're left in the care of other family members or friends. As a primary, I recommend the parents stay home with the children when they can, because we know the children get better more quickly if they have a primary caregiver caring for them and they're not shuffled around as much. Sick children are also brought to the clinic by well-meaning friends or relatives for their appointments, or by school counselors or school health aides because the parents are unable to bring the children to their medical appointment. And they're very well-meaning, and it is helpful to get to see the children, but oftentimes they don't have the information that I need when I'm taking the history regarding the child's illness, such as if they have had a fever, if they've been vomiting, when they ate last, if they've taken any medications. So there's just a lot missing when someone else is bringing the children in for their visits. And I also have young people who see me a couple times a year for chronic illnesses, and oftentimes the parents are unable to come with them to those visits. Frequently the grandparents are the ones that come, and again, they don't often always know the history of the child's illness or behavior at home. And at these appointments, I discuss many things with the families, including the medication management, side effects of the medicines, things they can be doing at home to help improve things for the child, lifestyle choices, habits, decisions. And if the primary caregiver isn't there to benefit from this information, a lot of times a lot is lost in the translation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruben Garcia is next, followed by Michael, looks like Drews.
Thank you for the opportunity to be able to communicate with you all. Appreciate your willingness to listen. As you know, if you remember, I'm one of the employers who has probably considered a small company, 70 employees, been in business for 24 years. And as you also know, that for the last probably 10 or 15 years, we've had minimum wage increases from 1% to 3% that we had to follow and abide by. And of course, we couldn't just absorb that. We had to pass it on to our customers. And I think in regards to the issue of the sick leave ordinance, I understand your heart. I understand, the love that's really behind that whole thing, because we all care about our employees. We all care about, everyone's associated with our company or our family, and so we need to take care of them. I think the only thing I wish you could do or could have done, or maybe it's not too late to do, is do 4 or 5 case studies. Take 4 or 5 companies. You can start with ours. Our payroll is $30,000 a month, and if you do the math at 2%, I believe that's $600 a month times 12 months in a year. And then I would look at maybe 4 or 5 other companies that are smaller or larger, and to see how that pencils out in regards to expenses. Because as you all know, all of us companies have all kinds of expenses that we have across the board. Chemical costs, equipment costs, and personnel costs, so we have to all have to shoulder those and deal with them one way or the other. We can't always absorb them. Sometimes we can, but not always. So I don't think I've heard anyone talk about a case study or 2 or 3, or in this case, I recommend, and I think it's imperative that you do 5 case studies with various size companies and just see how it pencils out with expenses, because, like many other things, I think, in fact, I might even add, a few weeks ago I was thinking I was okay with the sick ordinance. I would bend, I would flex with that whole thing if it wasn't too expensive. But I don't know, it depends on how some people think $100 is a lot of money, some people think it doesn't. In this particular case, we're talking $600 a month for our company, and do the math times 12. So another company may be $1,800 a month times 12 months. So, but I think that would be ideal, because you need to look at both sides of the story. The people who are sick, and by the way, I've heard words like termination. We have 70 employees, and we have a lot of people who are sick from time to time, and kids who are sick, and they just take the time off. But we've never terminated ever for anyone or disciplined anyone. We're very gracious with them, very patient with them. So they're still with us for many years. We have one employee just recently. It's always her son who's got some serious ailments that she misses work. So she's still with us, where we just are patient with her and work with her. So that's what it's all about.
Michael Drews, final speaker.
My name is Michael Drews. I live in the River Road area. Coming to address the fireworks issue. Was kind of curious, you had the second, or it's the third, fourth, and fifth dedicated as the days that will be allowed for pyrotechnics to take place. Is that correct? From what I understand. If it ends up raining and you can't do it those days, how does that work out? If you had some kind of a contingency plan for that. And also on top of that, I also read in the paper that the $2,800 maximum fine and 6 months in jail. I'm kind of curious as to, if you have jail space for people that light off fireworks, why are you not holding criminals? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to close public forum. Thank everybody for coming on all of these issues, and ask if there are comments. Councilor Surratt. Clark.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who came to speak. Always appreciate it when folks come down to talk. I'm going to focus on the comments around Kesey Square and what's going on down there. I really appreciated Mr. Strahan's positive ideas for positive things we might do, and we got an email from you where you articulated some of those specifics, which I always appreciate, the ideas of ways we can enhance the experience rather than how we can keep people away. So thank you for that. And in terms of that particular statue, I've been thinking about that. Ideally we would have a little perimeter around it so tourists who wanted to come and visit it and take their picture with it could access the statue. What I have seen is we either have street vendors, informal street vendors, and groups of travelers who are basically camp out on the statue, and therefore tourists can't access it to take pictures. And now we have this other situation of the tables and chairs being shoved up against it, so again, people can't really access the statue. So, we invited the food cart vendors down there in order to add to the atmosphere and to try and create a positive atmosphere, but it's concerning to me that it sounds like maybe we're creating a cultural conflict instead. And I have a question for the city manager, Chief Kearns, actually, around this situation that we heard about of the folks coming to read. If we had a preacher who decided to come down to Kesey Square to read from the Bible, would that constitute a violation there? I think we want to have a place where people can gather together and enjoy a common space. Loud vocalizations, musical performance might interfere with that, but sitting around a table, reading aloud from a book hardly seems to rise to that level. So I do want to know, is there some requirement that people purchase something at the food carts before they can sit at the tables? So I would appreciate an answer to that. Any more than someone has to purchase something from a Saturday market vendor in order to enjoy people watching at the park blocks during the Saturday market.
Just as it was described, by the end of the episode, the officers involved discovered that it's an open public space and people have the constitutional right to read out loud. There's another version of this story that we'll probably all hear about someday.
All right. There's always many versions of every story. So I think it's really important, though, that we acknowledge that this is a public space. People can come and engage in conversation, which may involve reading to each other from a text. And I think it would be great if we let the Red Hats and officers down there know, at least this city councilor would like to have that be accommodated. And I think all of us who use downtown, need to look for a way to interact with each other in a respectful way to get at the things that we're trying to all enjoy, and that folks from out of town want to enjoy, and I think our statuary is one of those things. Thank you.
Councilor Taylor?
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who spoke. I'm interested in everyone's opinions, but I especially appreciated the people who pointed out that downtown should have places to sit and places to go to the bathroom if we want to make people welcome downtown. And I especially appreciated Ken Newbeck and David Strahan and the other people who said there are various reasons why you need places to sit. And I don't think we should rent the public space to people to the exclusion of other people. We do need some tables, stationary tables in an obtrusive spot perhaps, and we need movable chairs so that people can form their own conversational groups. And they should be open to the public, not belonging to any vendors. Thank you.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to mention to Mr. Hale that it is my intention to make a motion when we get to the R1 amendments to include that piece of work in there to allow for some flexibility with flag lots. And I thought you'd want to know that. And then also to the gentleman who spoke about fireworks, I'm sorry I didn't hear your name clearly, but next to Pastor Aaron there. Thanks, sir. I've read the ordinance, and I think 4A is talking about what a rural fire district has to do as opposed to what a city has to do. And I think, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't mean to be practicing as one here, but I think the ordinance in that place is talking about the limitations for making rules for like a Santa Clara rural fire district sort of thing, as opposed to a city. So I think we can, but whether we should is another question.
Councilor Pryor?
Yeah, I just remembered that with regard to the deer fencing, someone had asked if it was possible to grandfather in existing 8-foot fences. Is that something that would need to be added to this, or is it something that would be implicit, or how would that work?
What I would suggest is when we get to that item, if you want to ask the question, or we'll have Stuart and or the attorneys be able to address that. If we can do that now, or if you'd like to do it.
I can wait until we're dealing with that subject, but so you can start thinking about how we might address that issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I just have a quick comment. One, on the downtown bathrooms and restrooms, we have heard that, and we will be coming back to council relatively soon with an analysis on some things to include the Portland Loo conversation. So you will have that
relatively soon. So we have been doing some work around that. So
Great.
just wanted to let you know that.
All right, we're going to, thanks again, everybody. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Council President?
Move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, ready to vote. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and none in opposition. It passes. Next up, item number 4, public hearing and ordinance amending, an ordinance amending ordinance number 20508. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing on an ordinance that would extend the suspension of the multi-unit property tax exemption program. The program has been suspended to allow the time necessary for council to modify the program criteria. The proposed extension would allow the additional time needed to work with impacted neighborhoods on issues related to MUPTI and Envision Eugene implementation. The proposed ordinance would extend the suspension to November 30th of 2014.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing. We have 2 people signed up. Those wishing, you will have completed a request to speak form. And when you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if you know it. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the timer. The red light indicates the end at 3 minutes. Michael Adams is up first, followed by William Ward.
Oh, Ian. So many good stuff to talk about tonight. Michael Adams, Councilors on Lake Board. So you're looking for ways to close a $3.2 million budget gap, if I remember correctly. As far as I'm hearing, the suspension of the tax breaks, it needs to go further than November, as was just stated by the city manager. We're handing out so much in tax breaks right now, and we're still looking to close a budget gap. It doesn't make sense to me. Not at all. Why are we handing out so much money to developers when we can't even fulfill our own budget? So in all honesty, who do you think needs the tax breaks? It's certainly not the companies that we're asking to come and build. They got money. We don't, apparently, because we got a budget gap. So right now we're about 2 years, give or take, with Capstone. I've been reading articles talking about street closures, etc., being too long. It forced at least a couple of citizens to have to walk around the block instead of down the street, which caused a huge inconvenience to them. For a lot of people, that, yes, it is a very huge inconvenience. For others like myself, no worries. But that's not what was agreed to. Apparently, there was a stipulation in the agreement that it would only be closed for X amount of time, and it's gone past that. Where's the enforcement? Where's the penalty for that? For not adhering to an agreement? You guys don't have to be so generous with the tax break as to allow them to flout this. So make them do what they've said they were going to do. For this and many other issues that are lacking an appropriate response due to lack of funds, I request that on behalf of those who would agree with me, that you guys have the proposed funds rerouted to solve other problems such as the bathrooms that we're facing a lack thereof. Thank you.
Next up is William Ward.
My name's William Ward. I live in Betty Taylor's area. That's a hard act to follow. I'm 100% behind what he said. Giving out tax breaks to state companies, and when we can't even keep Sheldon. You want to shut down Sheldon pool hours. You want to shut down some of the library, but you have money to buy an old stadium that's a hazardous lead paints thing. I'm very confused as far as how we're running our city. And then we have to push bond issues like when it failed in last fall, and you can't build streets without bond issues, and you're supposedly coming up with a bond issue this coming fall. It used to be a day when supply and demand took care of everything from housing before we did tax exemptions, and we didn't have to float bond measures to get our streets built or whatever you want to ever use build. And I see it all as that, Eugene is addicted to growth. We have to have growth or else we don't exist. Maybe that includes bringing big box stores, Walmarts, Home Depots when we got juries. And growth is not the answer. Look what it did to Bend. They're 90% of their income for years and years was building permits. Then all of a sudden they don't have a dime. I just don't give away the farm. I think you've given away the fields to make the stuff grow, but we still got some of the farm left. So don't give away more tax exemptions. So we can get by without floating bond measures, and we have some money in the bank for basic services, and we don't have to cut down library hours, pool hours. Thank you.
Close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask for questions or comments from City Council. I did want to say that one of the reason that street's been disrupted for such a long time is because they found historic trolley line tracks there, and that's what they've been dealing with, just so you know. Okay. Councilor Taylor.
I think we should get rid of the tax breaks forever, but I will vote for the suspension of MUPTE.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to item number 5, an ordinance concerning deer fencing. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The council is scheduled to take action tonight on code amendments related to deer fencing standards within the city limits. The goal of these amendments is to allow for higher fences to prevent deer from destroying gardens. Staff is recommending adoption of the draft ordinance, which is in your packet as attachment A. And I'll ask Glenn to start with your question, Councilor Pryor, and Stuart Ramsing is also here to be able to address it if need be.
So the issue about trying to grandfather in existing, what I'm assuming are existing violations of the code, we would need to come back to the council with specific code language to allow that to happen. But before even trying to draft that, I would need to understand better what it is that you would actually want to grandfather in. If the existing violations that somebody's talking about aren't consistent with the language that's being proposed to be added, then there may be safety issues. The deer fencing isn't just any kind of fencing. It deals with, well, we want to make sure that there's visibility through that area, so it's more like wire fencing. So I'd need to know more about what exactly you'd want to grandfather in. But if we're going to add language to Chapter 9, which is what this amendment would be, I would want to come back to the council with that language, just in case we need to amend the findings that are attached to this ordinance, because it's a land use regulation.
Councilor Pryor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think in order to be responsive to what we were hearing tonight, and it's okay to bring language back, I think you're right. We could go ahead and pass this tonight, and then you could bring additional amendment language, or would you want to wait on the whole thing until you could amend it?
If you adopt this tonight and then we bring you additional language, we would have to go through the process again, starting with a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission and then public hearing in front of Council. Depending on the nature of the amendment, we might be able to bring back, if you don't act tonight, we might be able to just bring back an amendment to this ordinance, which would be a simpler process.
Okay. What I'm looking for and what I thought I heard was the only things that would be grandfathered would be existing fences that absolutely comply with what's already here. So it wouldn't have to change any of the specifications or requirements within the ordinance. It would only be those that are already complying with what's in this ordinance would also be grandfathered in. Is that clear enough?
Yes, and if you want to move on, my suggestion then, if you can move on to your next agenda item, give me a chance to talk to Stuart.
You may be able to come up with language. I see Stuart nodding. So you may be able to come up with language if we go ahead and then come back to this?
Right.
Okay. That sounds fine with me, if that's okay with the rest of the council.
Yeah.
All right.
Action.
We'll move on to item number 6, which is the action on ordinance concerning restrictions on fireworks. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council has asked for options for increased enforcement and education regarding the illegal discharge of fireworks. Attached are 2 ordinances to respond to that request. The first ordinance establishes a limit for the discharge of legal fireworks for July 3rd through 5th and December 31st and January 1st. And the second defines the illegal discharge of fireworks as an offense which defines an unruly gathering. A provision has been included in these draft ordinances establishing an immediate effective date.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of the second piece. because the second piece helps with enforcement. We have an enforcement problem with illegal fireworks, not a problem with legal fireworks. So I'm going to be voting against the first part, because saying we shouldn't have legal fireworks, those that are currently legal, doesn't really address the problem that people complain about. People complain about the fireworks that explode and the kind that go up in the air and come down and cause fires. Legal fireworks don't do that. So I'm not interested in banning legal fireworks. I'm interested in solving the actual problem, which is better enforcement of the illegal fireworks.
Councilor Surratt?
So I had a couple of questions about the first part, the first motion. So the house that burned down last 4th of July, was that illegal or legal fireworks that caused that? Was there a determination?
Legal.
I'd like to get an answer from the
staff.
Staff, yeah.
Ward.
If I recall actually reading in the paper that it was a legal firework that burned in the arborvitae, but
yeah, the cause and origin investigator, Deputy Linder, determined that it was an illegal firework that started the fire.
okay, thank you. So then my other question actually is an enforcement question. So in proposing, thank you, this limitation on the dates that legal fireworks could be used, and I do agree with Councilor Clark that in terms of the really negative impact, it is the illegal fireworks that are causing the negative impact. But my understanding is, and maybe Lieutenant Feldman can correct me if I'm wrong, is if we limit the days for legal fireworks, that actually helps enforcement around the illegal fireworks. Is that a correct statement in terms of strategy and tactics? And obviously resources.
As I'm excuse me. As I'm remembering the discussions that we had around the two ordinances, the date limit was more around the impacts of the fireworks noise, and even the legal fireworks do make some pretty loud popping noises if you're nearby that could be pretty disturbing for pets and or for veterans or other people who are impacted by that sort of thing. The enforcement of the illegal fireworks, I don't think is really impacted by that particular ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Councilor Cryer.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to follow up on what Councilor Surratt asked, because that was also my same question. You want to do as much as reasonable, but you don't want to go beyond what is reasonable. And so the question is, and I agree completely, our real interest is in illegal fireworks. And so my question was, if we were to allow legal fireworks to be, let's say we were to allow them to be used from today through July 5th or 6th, would that have an impact on your enforcement of the illegal fireworks that we're really trying to achieve?
The date limit around legal fireworks, as I'm imagining how it would go for enforcement, because it only really addresses, because the illegal fireworks are illegal all the time. So whenever those are detonated, those can be, or possessed for that matter, those can be enforced. The date limit really was more about trying to address the way that the legal fireworks even impact people throughout the year. So that a pet owner, for example, who has pets that are terrified by the noise from fireworks would know, okay, this year from date X to date Y, I should expect to have fireworks, and I need to take steps to prepare my animals, or leave whatever I need to do, I need to prepare for that. Similarly, for somebody who has had some kind of traumatic stressful event that is still with them and is affected by that type of noise, could know, all right, I should expect this kind of noise to be happening from this date to this date, and they can prepare for it. They can adjust their lives to accommodate the celebrations of their friends and neighbors. Otherwise, the legal fireworks can be detonated any time of the year, and it would be harder to deal with that side of the discussion of those impacts from the noise from the legal fireworks. The legal ones, I don't think there's really a connection.
Understood. Okay. Do we have a sense of how much of a disruption to pets, people, whatever, that legal fireworks might make? I know that some make a popping noise, but my sense is they don't go very high. They aren't too loud. They're mostly relatively quiet. Do we have a sense of just how much of a disruption legal fireworks make? I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater is what I'm getting at. I really think a very rigid and strict enforcement of illegal fireworks is where the real interest is. I don't want to catch up a lot of people who are just trying to celebrate in a legal way in a kind of a dragnet. And so do we have a sense that there's a lot of complaints about legal fireworks disturbing pets or other people?
That's a difficult question to answer accurately, so I can give you my sense of it, but it's not something that's been verified by a survey or any kind of intense research to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
The fireworks that are commonly available that screech and make loud noises and can be purchased at the local stands. If you're nearby and it's summertime and your windows are open, those can be pretty loud. And I know only from my own experience, even growing up in Oregon, those types of fireworks where friends and neighbors had pets that were bothered by them had experience with even those fireworks bothering them.
So there are brands of legal fireworks that would make loud or screeching noises or something that could considered to be
it's certainly on a different order of magnitude in terms, that's probably the wrong term. It's obviously they're not as big and loud as the big airburst fireworks are. But when you're close to them, they're still pretty loud.
I wonder about the desirability of maybe moving into this incrementally. In other words, we're still trying to achieve an ultimate outcome, but maybe because this is, for some folks, very short notice, and they've already purchased their fireworks, they've already got their stand set up and everything else, perhaps for the immediate period, we could say, let's really focus on the illegal fireworks now, and then incrementally work our way into some sort of a logical and reasonable response in terms of legal fireworks, because there may be something we need to do there, but I've really learned the lesson of proceeding thoughtfully and carefully and not going further than you really should go without being really knowledgeable about where you are. So I'm 100% supportive of the efforts of you and the fire department to really go after and enforce illegal fireworks as the first and most important step. And if we want to consider, even if it was temporary or just for the interim, something that would allow people who have already secured large inventories of fireworks that they're wanting to sell for this year, and perhaps allow them to go ahead and use the legal fireworks between the dates in which they can be sold and immediately after the 4th. And then we can continue to work on what our strategy is around those fireworks as well. But I do think adamantly we need to control illegal fireworks.
Councilor Colling.
Thank you. I sent out an email earlier today, and it was based on conversations I had throughout the weekend as well as all the emails that we've all received. You know, basically what I'm looking at is 4 different options. One is vote yes on it, on this particular part of it, the restriction. Vote no on it. Change the dates to when legal fireworks can be used to coincide with when they're sold, or to postpone this whole thing and have the city manager come back with some sort of a process to apply to allow legal fireworks at other times than set out in the ordinance, because as I said at our last meeting, there are many cultures that use fireworks for their celebrations other than during the 4th of July period and New Year's and New Year's Eve. Illegal fireworks being discharged has absolutely nothing to do with specific dates. You know, just ask the neighbors, the guy that lives a quarter of a mile up the road from me, about all the dates that this guy goes out and sets off illegal fireworks. And I brought that up last time that, you know, actually I realized these fireworks are going off, so I turned the TV on. It was the end of the hockey playoffs. The next week was the NBA playoffs. Fortunately, the Miami Heat got beat by San Antonio. Otherwise, we would have heard it again. So, you know, I am not in favor of totally restricting the dates that fireworks can be used, and I will want to go into I don't know if I should put the motion out now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a motion out, and it's I move to postpone action on ordinance 4934 until after the city manager returns to council with one or more options for a free or low-cost permitting process to allow individuals or groups to apply for permits to discharge legal fireworks at different times of the year, in addition to the dates contained in proposed section 4.934.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Further discussion? Counselor Brown? Counselor
Yes, I think this is interesting. I think I'll probably support this. I was looking at Councilor Poling. This is Councilor Poling's motion number 2 on a sheet that we got. I'm looking at motion number 1, which I don't know if you'll make that motion or not, but motion number 1 mentions something about amending the proposed ordinance language in front of us to allow legal fireworks only to be used on the date that the state allows fireworks to be sold in Oregon. And I'm just wondering, what are those dates? Do we know?
I can answer that. That's
Okay.
June 23rd to July 6th.
I see. Okay. And they can be sold, legal fireworks can be sold at no other time.
I'm sorry?
They can be sold at no other time in the year?
As far as I know, that's
Okay.
when it can be sold.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's other cultures have, their important dates too, and we are a multicultural nation, and a couple came to mind immediately when I thought about this. The Cinco de Mayo is a big thing with the Mexican American community. Oddly enough, it's not a big day in Mexico. The big day down there is 16 de Septiembre, September 16th. That's Independence Day in Mexico. Cinco de Mayo is regarded as just a northern thing. They don't take it seriously south of the border. Also, Chinese New Year. It fluctuates. It's not a given date. They use the lunar calendar, so it takes place in January or February. I'm sure there's many other ones I'm not aware of. Plus, sometimes people like to do it, for their children's birthday. The overwhelming testimony that we've heard, either at public forum or by email, were about the illegal fireworks and the damage they can do to peace of mind and pets' peace of mind and humans' peace of mind, and they're already illegal, and I think that it's more of a problem of enforcement rather than tweaking with the existing laws that we have. So, but I kind of like the idea of Councilor Poling's motion here, and I might go with that one. Thank you.
Councilor Fryer?
This is a great example of how the City Council is thinking right up until the last minute, and we're certainly not in lockstep on anything. We are open to hearing things, and I think that's a good thing. So the question of the hour is, people are very concerned about illegal fireworks and this 4th of July. How would this postponement that's being proposed impact your plans to enforce against the use of illegal fireworks this 4th of July? Would it have any sort of a significant impact on that enforcement effort?
No, I don't think it would.
So we could go full steam ahead with the council's absolute endorsement that you pursue an aggressive policy against illegal fireworks this 4th of July, even if we were to postpone the conversation about legal fireworks to a more deliberative process.
One of the things that we talked about early on in this was that it took a while for this problem to get to where it is.
Right.
To say, as you said, that a measured, staged approach to fixing the problem makes a lot of sense, gives people time to adjust, makes perfect sense.
Okay, so I could actually support Councilor Poling's proposal with your, not recommendation, but your confirmation that this is not going to impact your enforcement efforts, that we really are going to go after illegal fireworks this 4th of July to the degree that you can.
Yes.
Thank you.
So before I've got Councilor Surratt, Councilor Polling, and Councilor Zelenka in the queue, but Councilor Clark, I would like to ask, oh, Taylor, okay. Sorry, Betty. Well, you did get in once. This is only the first one. I wanted to ask you to please reiterate for the public what you're going to do, no matter in any case.
The plans that we already have in place, we've already started receiving tips via our crime tip line phone line and by the emails, either our existing phone line or the new fireworks-specific tip line. So we're already getting tips from the public, and they can be anonymous, about places that we should be watching for illegal fireworks use. You know, the people that have, if you're your neighbors and you don't feel comfortable talking to, and you know every year they have illegal fireworks, if we have an address, our crime prevention people will either be visiting them in person or sending them a letter reminding them that we're going to be enforcing the illegal fireworks this year, and then also reminding them about the illegal fireworks turn-in for private parties for retail fireworks that are illegal this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 2nd and Chambers in front of the police and fire training facility. So those things are already in progress and will be happening. We have posted for additional officers to work the 4th of July, starting at 8 p.m. and running until 4 a.m., or however long we need to be there probably, in order to respond to those additional several hundred calls that we get every year of illegal fireworks use. And so that will happen regardless of what happens with either of these ordinances. We're also going through the data that we have already of past fireworks complaints to try to identify problem locations that we can do prevention efforts with prior to the 4th of July, same as the addresses that we get from tips. And all of the data that we have already and the data that we gather from calls for service and tips for this year will be analyzed after the 4th of July so that we can make informed decisions about what to do next, what the next steps ought to be, or what we might recommend moving forward with trying to resolve the problem.
Do you have a phone number just in your head for people to call?
I did when I left the office this afternoon, but I don't. I'll find out. And I'll find out. We're going to do a press conference tomorrow, and we'll be re-releasing information. So we'll make sure we get the number out again.
All right. Great. Okay.
It is available on the website, though, also.
Okay.
He just gives his cell phone number.
Yeah, what's your cell phone number?
911.
911.
Actually, I think it's a good use of this time when it's on TV to let people know about the number. So if anybody can find that out, I think it's a good thing to do.
One thing that I do worry about people getting confused about is that the tip line is for places where we expect problems to happen, or after the fact, hey, there was a problem here and I don't know if the police made it out. For in-progress crimes, it's very important that if there's an immediate life safety issue that folks call 911, and if it's not, if it's just illegal fireworks that they're concerned about, that they call the 682-5111 non-emergency police number for anything that's in progress that they want us to try to go to right away, because on the 4th of July, the tip line and the tip emails won't be seen until the next day, or that's on a Friday, so probably won't be seen until the following Monday. So for in-progress crimes, 682-5111.
Thank you very much. Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I have heard from so many people who are glad we're finally doing something about fireworks. And I think that limiting the days is just one step. It is being incremental. And as I understand it, fires can be started by legal fireworks. Isn't that true?
Anytime you set something on fire,
Yeah.
if it's not used properly, if it's not used safely, or if an accident happens,
So
we could start a fire with a firework.
Yeah, and they do make some noise.
And they do make some noise.
Yes, and people are upset with the extended time and thinking that a first step would be limiting it to a few days a year. As for people wanting to celebrate, when you celebrate and it interferes with other people's peace of mind or safety, that's going too far, I think. But I think this was limiting to a few days was a good first step, and it is only a first step. And I hope that we don't dilute this and have people saying, if they're reported, they say, well, we only have legal things, and they could easily hide the others when enforcement shows up. Thanks.
Councilor Surratt.
Thank you. I'm not going to support the motion because I don't want to postpone action. I'm hoping that we'll take action on this tonight, but I do want us to, if this motion doesn't pass, I would like us to develop a permit, and I would say a no-cost permit process for individuals and groups to apply for being able to discharge beyond whatever dates we end up, if we do end up restricting the dates of discharge. I think that's an important consideration for, as Councilor Brown and Pulling have pointed out, the fact that we are a multicultural community and not everyone is limited just to wanting to use the, fireworks on the 4th of July. I, as like Councilor Taylor, have a pretty, I would say, hardcore position on this and do really want to see a lot more restrictions on our use of fireworks in our community. However, I am willing to compromise and potentially support the first draft motion that Councilor Pulling had put out, which would allow a little bit more leeway in the date restrictions, basically from now through the 4th of July or the 5th of July, as one of those incremental steps, and let it be that for this year and perhaps revisit next year and perhaps tighten it up even more. I think we are deliberating on this evening. I think it's a good place for us to be deliberating. I don't feel we need a bunch more deliberation before we take some votes on these issues. I have heard from many, many people, as Councilor Taylor just alluded to, who really want to see some action. And while I appreciate that law enforcement and fire and EMS have a strategy in place that they're implementing regardless of what we end up doing, I do think it's important that this council take some action on this issue as well.
Councilor Pulling.
Yeah, thank you. In reference to the motion, if this passes, the restriction on the dates will be moot. Moot. But the discussion will be able to, when it comes back to us, the discussion on the dates, restriction of any dates, will come back to us whether we want to do it as proposed in the ordinance or change it to whatever we deem necessary. Is that correct? I kind of stumbled through that. I hope you were following. I'm sorry, I saw you writing too at the same time.
Could you ask that again?
Yeah, sure. In other words, if the motion passes, we do not have any restrictions on dates for this year, for the 4th of July period. But when it comes back to us, when the direction that we give the city manager comes back to us, we can also at that time have the discussion and make a decision on specific dates, which may be altered based on the information we get back from staff. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
What I was writing was, in case somebody asked for a motion that sort of merges your first and second motions. So if you decide what you could do tonight, I don't have the language yet, but I've got most of it drafted out. You could amend the ordinance to do what's in your first motion and add language that would authorize other dates that the manager would include in administrative rules to deal with the permit component that you're including in your second motion. So if you wanted to do something tonight that sort of combines these two motions, I can get you an amendment to do that. If you just want to do the second motion, then we would come back to you with the permitting, the options for the permitting, and yes, as your question asked, you would be able to do all of it at that point.
I'd rather go that route.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Zelenka.
So the majority of the problem that we're dealing with is actually illegal fireworks in my mind. And the problem I've had with this all along is that the solution means more enforcement, and more enforcement is extremely difficult and very expensive, and it also takes officers away from doing other things that are more serious crime investigation and enforcement. So I think that's very problematic. I don't want to set up a false expectation that what we're doing is solving the illegal fireworks problem, because we're not even close to that. I do applaud our efforts. I thought they're very innovative in doing the stuff that we're going to do regardless, the hotline and education and stuff like that. I would like to take action tonight. I like the idea of amending this for other cultural uses and giving the authority to the city manager and administrative rules, and I'm also okay with limiting fireworks from June 23rd to July 6th timeframe. So I'm in favor of the combo motion.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. The challenge we have with this is how many people in our community are using illegal fireworks, and it's a lot. It's not just a little. There are a lot of people who use illegal fireworks. It doesn't take any kind of special investigation to see the number of things flying in the air and exploding and the number of really loud things going bang on the 4th of July. Those are the illegal fireworks, and they're all over the place. And we have so many of them that we think it nearly impossible to try and absolutely control the use of illegal fireworks. Creating a permitting system for legal fireworks, I can't imagine why that wouldn't be as badly ignored. And from my perspective, it's not solving the real problem, which is better enforcement of illegal fireworks. Now, I appreciate and I applaud what the department's trying to do this year, and I think it'll help. I think it'll be better this year when we do that. But I certainly hope we don't put more restrictions and create expectations on folks who want to celebrate quietly in the front of their house and their street, when the real problem are those who are already flaunting the law by using illegal fireworks.
Okay, it looks to me like we are ready to vote on Councillor Polling's motion. All those in favor of Councillor Polling's motion, please indicate. 1, 2, 3. In opposition? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes down.
Glenn, do you have language? That there's a combo?
I can give you the language, but the time you would actually make the motion number 1 would be after you put the main motion on the floor, because it would be an amendment to the ordinance. So it would be Councillor Polling's motion 1 that you have in front of you, except I'll just read the whole thing, but the change is at the end of it. I move to amend the first sentence of section 4.934 to read as follows. In addition to restrictions on the sale, possession, use, detonation, or explosion of fireworks under state law, it is unlawful to use, light, detonate, display, or explode any fireworks anywhere in the city at any time except on December 31, January 1, the dates that state law allows fireworks to be sold in Oregon, and other times as authorized by the city manager in administrative rules adopted pursuant to section 2.019 of the Eugene Code.
Can't we?
So moved.
But you can't do that yet.
Why not? Well, actually, I had the floor, so. Okay. Can't we just say June 30th through July 6th instead of that dates allowed by state law, blah, blah, blah?
Yes, but if state law then changes, you're locked into the dates you just said as opposed to the dates that would be authorized by state law. So you just have to decide which is more important.
It could be a conflict between states.
Yeah, but how long has that been in place? Those dates?
Well, 25 years.
25 years, okay. I'm okay with those dates. I don't think they're going to change, probably. So,
Councillor Polling, you going to make a motion?
so I'll move.
So again, you can't make this motion until the main motion is on the floor, which is on your yellow sheet, which would be under item 6, the first motion. I move to adopt Council Bill 5121. So you first want to put that main motion on the floor.
Oh, I thought this was in place of that.
No, this is an amendment to
This amends
I didn't realize it was an amendment.
Because
Okay.
there's more to it than just what you just said.
So if everybody's okay, I'll put the main motion out. I move to adopt Council Bill 5121, an ordinance concerning restrictions on fireworks, adding Section 4.934 to the Eugene Code and amending Section 4.990 of that code and providing for an immediate effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Polling?
I did have a question. Mr. Klein, the third sentence, it says, it is unlawful to use, light, detonate, display, or explode any fireworks anywhere in the city at any time except. So does I think we need to take that out, because then we're giving permission to explode things. And that's the whole point of this discussion, is
Right.
the exploding ones. The ones that ignite and sparkle and smoke or whatever else they do are the legal ones. The ones that explode are
Are
the ones
illegal.
that are the problem.
The first sentence, or the first part of that sentence, in addition to restrictions on the sale, possession, use, detonation, or explosion of fireworks under state law.
That's
So
where
unless
it's
something
covered.
is authorized by state law, say it differently, if something is prohibited by state law, you can't do it.
Here.
Okay.
If something is authorized by state law, you then can do it, but only if it's on these dates. If you want to take out the word explode, I don't have a concern about that. I'm not sure, and so you could take out that word too.
Yeah, because as a kid, I used to take what we call piccolo Pete's and crimp them with pliers, light them off, and
Officer.
they would whistle. And then that was
when he was a
that
child.
was like 50
you knew
years
better.
ago. And they'd whistle to a certain point, and then they would explode. So that's my concern, is altering the legal fireworks to make them illegal.
That holds the
Everybody had to do that.
Yeah.
As if they don't know already.
Okay.
So now we get a min.
We're glad to be educational programming tonight.
Councilor Zelenka.
Glenn, can you read the motion to amend excluding the word explode?
Yes. So the amendment would be amend the first sentence of 4.934 to read as follows. In addition to restrictions on the sale, possession, use, detonation, or explosion of fireworks under state law, it is unlawful to use, light, detonate, or display any fireworks anywhere in the city at any time except on December 31, January 1, if I could ask for somebody's help with the dates that is allowed.
June 23rd through July 6th.
June 23rd through July 6th, and other times is authorized by the city manager in administrative rules adopted pursuant to Section 2.019 of the Eugene Code.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councilor Clark.
Now, I'll vote against this as well, because we're asking this to come back. Again, what we're going to say to the public with this is, we're not doing anything this year on legal fireworks, but next year we may come back and make you get a permit for everything except for these particular days. I think we're overcomplicating what the actual problem is. What we really need to do is look for better ways to enforce how we deal with people who light illegal fireworks, and this is use of time that doesn't deal with the actual problem. So I can't support this.
So, Councilor Brown.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Councilor Clark on this. It's the problem with the use of fireworks, whether they're legal or illegal, seems to be more of an enforcement problem than other considerations. And so, if we do this, previously legal fireworks will not be considered illegal if they're used on any besides 4 dates throughout the year. So
only next year.
In addition to the, we're kind of making illegal something that previously has always been legal.
That's true now.
That's true now. They can only use legal fireworks on certain days.
But that's next year, not this year.
That's next year, is that correct?
Glenn?
If the council adopts this amendment and then adopts if 6 of you vote for this ordinance, then this will be in effect starting tonight.
Immediately.
Well, it would be in effect after the mayor signs the ordinance, so maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
But it would take 6 of you to vote in favor of the ordinance. If 6 of you do not vote in favor of the ordinance, then it would take effect in 30 days.
So, ready to vote? On the substitute?
On the amendment.
On the amendment. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In opposition. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So,
How did we
I'm
get
the first
5-4 exactly?
The mayor broke the tie.
I did.
Which way? I'm sorry.
I voted for it.
Okay.
Okay. So it passed. Now the main motion as amended. All those in support of the main motion as amended, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in opposition, 2. It passes. All right, thank you very much. Now we're going to go, but yes.
So that was 6 counselors. Does that mean it takes effect immediately?
Sure does.
It means it will take effect after we present to the mayor and she signs the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go back to deer fencing.
Mayor, there's one more ordinance.
Oh, another one.
Want me to go ahead and put it on?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. I move to adopt Council Bill 5120, an ordinance concerning unruly gatherings, amending Section 4.670 of the Eugene Code, and providing an immediate effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Counselor Brown.
Yeah, I would like to know what the perceived benefit of this amendment to the social host ordinance will provide.
With essentially the same benefits that the social host ordinance created relating to the unruly partying behavior that was part of the discussion initially around social host, with the added ability to have that kind of accountability where fireworks, unlawful use of fireworks, is now one of the included offenses. So in a situation which councilors have described as one where we really are mostly concerned with people obeying the law, an additional enticement to be respectful of neighbors and not engage in activity that's going to break those laws.
I don't know. It just we've got the social host ordinance has 10 or 11 different things, and if only 2 or more of those things are playing out, drinking, noise, harassment, fighting, all that stuff. I just think that's enough, and it's there again. I just think like adding this on to the social host ordinance is really unnecessary, and I don't think it'll really help anything because if there's no enforcement, it all goes back to that, and so I don't think I'll be able to support this.
Councilor Taylor.
I agree. This wouldn't do anything more to enforce the fireworks limitation, would it?
The story that I imagine where this would apply is where someone's hosting a get-together at their home. One of their friends brings over illegal fireworks to light off. Without this, the enforcement would be against the person who is using or possessing the illegal fireworks. With social host, the person hosting the party has some enticement to tell their friends, hey, put that stuff away.
But it doesn't help to limit the use of fireworks.
Without enforcement, it wouldn't, no.
No, I don't see any point to it, really.
Yes?
Yeah. So this is just for illegal fireworks, adding to the social host ordinance of 2 violations of laws that would impose the social host ordinance. So I think absolutely it would create circumstances that will reduce the amount of illegal fireworks if people know that the social host ordinance applies here, and the penalties associated with that and the accountability associated with that, which, by the way, has been working wonderfully if you live in my neighborhood. This will definitely, I think, reduce the amount of illegal fireworks if people have this extra added rule on top of it. So I think it's a no-brainer that it will reduce illegal fireworks.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur. This, as the lieutenant mentioned, this is a little social pressure on people to say, hey, don't bring that stuff to my house, because that's going to get me in trouble too. And I think that's a way where we're enforcing with one another in a positive way.
Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In opposition, 2. It passes. Thank you. Now to the deer fencing.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you had asked for the number for the tip
Yes.
line. I do have it. Again, for in-progress calls, 682-5111. For tips that can be followed up that are not in progress, it's 541-682-8888.
Thank you very much.
All 8.
All
Thank
8s,
you
that's
very much.
682.
682-8888.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much, Scott. All right.
That's right.
Good bit to work on deer fencing?
You don't need any additional language. If the intent is to grandfather in any fences that currently, or that would be consistent with the requirements that you're about to adopt, the way the code is written, it would authorize existing fences that will meet the new code requirements. So all you need to do is adopt the ordinance in front of you.
Cool. Thank you. Shall I go ahead and do that?
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. I move to adopt Council Bill 5118, an ordinance concerning deer fencing contained in Attachment A.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for staff. Have you been hearing from people that have deer fences already that are wondering if they're in compliance, or I'm sure there's perhaps illegal deer fences that are illegal right now?
We have not.
You have not.
Mostly
Okay.
just support for this ordinance.
So this is probably not a really a big issue. There's probably
For
not all these
existing
people.
ones, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready to vote? All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have consensus. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Although I sat and watched a deer jump a 10-foot fence right in front of me one
Yeah, they can
time.
do it.
10-foot chain link fence.